KD right?
He is sadly right, as much as he is a biased representative of one of those franchises that he mentioned. And it's because, like, a human being develops memory at age 3. So if you're a young person, man, all you really know in your 20s is that the Knicks have one playoff series win as long as they've been alive. Like, I don't expect anybody to appreciate the history as much as I still do try to appreciate the history.
Yeah, but see, I think it's less about the Knicks themselves, right? Because, I mean, look, the Knicks have not won a championship since 1973. I was born in 1980. There have been all kinds of downtimes there, but the Knicks means something different to people my age, in part because of those teams in the 90s, but also in part what New York meant in a larger sense in these earlier times. Like, I feel like the technology has shrunk the world, right? The world's a lot smaller, a lot closer than it used to be. Like the way that people used to look at the idea of going to New York and that it's being the center of everything and that you left wherever this place was that you were and now you're in the mix. The mix has kind of gone to all these different places. And so the demand of being in a city like this, I think is different than it used to be. And as a result, I think the luster, if you're thinking about joining the Knicks, it just doesn't mean the same thing to a lot of people as it once did.
As you know, I am a dyed-in-the-wool New York elitist, so I completely disagree with your evaluation of the decline of New York.
You also ain't never been nowhere.
Not true.
You talk about bad. You went to Boston.
The globe. I'm a worldly man. You know who else is a worldly man, Bomani? Marcus Morris. Please roll the tape.
As for the offense, he felt that Elfrid Payton, RJ did both great job pushing the pace. He said
that is Marcus Morris, new member of the day.
Why would you do that?
That is Justin Anderson.
Why would you do that?
Why not?
I mean, there are lots of answers for why not, actually.
But he's going to explain himself.
Like I said in the beginning, we're not taking no shit. So,
okay.
It is what it is.
I mean, the hand is technically part of the ball, and so I do feel like he technically punched Justin Anderson in the face. But this is hearkening back to the spirit of the 90s. This is the spirit of Anthony Mason and Charles Oakley manifesting in that very unhinged and terrifying new forward we have now.
You're not getting off the fact that you left for college, then came back to New York and don't never want to go nowhere else. You've been on some planes, but you ain't been nowhere.
I'd like to never go anywhere else, actually. 16. Because Zion Williamson put up 16, 7, and 3 in his preseason debut for the Pelicans. So, Bomani, what was the most encouraging part of the Pelicans' debut last night to you?
Honestly, it's the rest of the Pelicans. Other than Magic Johnson, I'm trying to think of a player that's come in with as much hype as Zion Williamson that's actually going to a pretty decent team. Like, normally your reward for having been so good previously is that you got to go out there and play with scrubs. That's not what's happened here. Like, what the Pelicans did off the Anthony Davis trade and turning that into basically what seems to be a positive to where now they don't have to lean on Zion in such a way. What he can be to start with is a really athletic dude who runs the lanes and makes big plays on defense, but doesn't have to be your star.
I must admit that most of my consumption of this game resembles a lot like how I consumed Zion at Duke. I just watched him dunk in highlights and it was incredible. But I do think you have a really strong point because in those clips, we saw Lonzo Ball with the refashioned jumper. We saw Brandon Ingram. We saw, well, I don't know if we even saw Drew Holiday, who led the team in scoring because everything was obscured by this dude doing good stuff. But I do think this is more than just Zion, even if Zion is always going to be the lead because he can do that.
Like, okay, trade a barge right there. Smart play, buddy. Get out the way. I don't even, who's number 30? Jones? You ain't no kind of kin to me. I'd have been out the way.
But the question, Bomani, was, does his athleticism translate to the league? And
who ever questioned that?
Nobody was the question.
No, from who? And the one thing we knew was that his people. The one thing we knew is that his athleticism would translate to the league. The question was, how good was his game? What was shocking about his time at Duke is that there were so many advanced statistics that indicated this guy was almost a sure thing, except he measured out as 6'6", and the 6'6" power forward has never really worked out so well in the NBA unless you're like a Charles Barkley type of talent, and this dude just might be the Charles Barkley type of talent.
But I think the question about the athleticism was not whether it would show up, it's whether it would be that much of an advantage in the NBA now that he's playing against these grown dudes. And what we are confirming is that, yes, he is the type of 6'6" dude who has all of that talent that is going to exceed his peers, even at the highest level.
Yeah, but I still think his game was always far more of a question than it was his athletic.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
but we knew he was going to be one of the most athletic dudes, if not the most, when we realized that he was going to jump higher and be heavier than everybody else.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports analysis and highlights, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.